Captain Elena Reyes straightened her crisp blue uniform and took a deep breath. At 35, she had not expected to become humanity's face in their first major diplomatic encounter with the Galactic Council. Yet here she stood in the United Earth Government's Grand Communication Chamber, about to meet the representatives of a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. "Transmission incoming, Captain," said Lieutenant Park from his console. "The Council's signal is stabilizing." Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the circular platform before her. The air shimmered, and suddenly the room seemed much smaller as a 12-limbed alien figure materialized in holographic form. The creature towered nearly 4 meters tall, its iridescent skin shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. 4 of its upper limbs were adorned with ornate metal bands, marking its status as the High Minister of the Valorian Dominion, the leading species of the Galactic Council. "I am Zorthul, voice of the many, High Minister of the Valorian Dominion, and emissary of the Galactic Council," the alien announced, its voice translated into a surprisingly melodious English. "Your species has been evaluated following your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel." Elena bowed slightly. "High Minister, I am Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Government. We are honored by this communication and eager to join the galactic community." The Valorian's 4 eyes, each the size of a human fist, blinked in sequence. "Eager. Yes, all new species demonstrate eagerness." The translation couldn't hide the dismissive tone. "You will learn that the Council operates on principles established over 50,000 years of interstellar governance." Elena maintained her diplomatic smile, despite the chill running down her spine. Something in the High Minister's manner reminded her of old Earth history, of powerful empires speaking to conquered territories. "The Council has determined Earth's entry conditions," Zorthul continued. "As tribute for protection and technological exchange rights, humanity will provide 10% of all planetary resources annually. Additionally, 5% of your population will be selected for service volunteers across Council worlds." The chamber fell silent. Behind Elena, she heard Lieutenant Park's sharp intake of breath. "High Minister," Elena began carefully. "These terms seem substantial. 5% of our population would be over 400 million people." "The terms are standard for a species of your development level," Zorthul replied, 2 of its limbs making a gesture that the translation system didn't interpret. "Your technology is primitive. Your resources are plentiful. You have much to gain from Council protection." "Protection from what, exactly?" Elena asked, her diplomatic training warring with growing concern. The Valorian's skin darkened slightly. "The universe is vast and filled with dangers a young species cannot comprehend. Some civilizations would strip your world bare rather than welcome you as we do. Others would see your genetic material as a resource to be harvested." Images appeared in the air around the Valorian, recordings of massive ships reducing cities to ash, strange creatures collecting terrified humanoids, planets cracking apart under energy weapons. "These are the fates of worlds that refused Council terms," Zorthul said simply. "We offer structure, order, survival." Elena fought to keep her expression neutral despite the transparent threat. "Our government will need to discuss these terms. Of course, all species require time to accept reality." The Valorian made a gesture that might have been magnanimous. "You have 30 standard days to prepare your initial tribute shipment and the first volunteer transport vessels. Council engineers will arrive then to establish a permanent transport gate in your system. And if we require more time to consider alternatives," Elena asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "There are no alternatives, Captain Reyes." The Valorian's voice hardened. "Refusal will result in your world's isolation from all Council trade routes and technologies. Any vessels attempting to leave your system will be intercepted. Should your leadership prove problematic, pacification measures may become necessary." The E-top images of burning worlds flickered once more before fading. "We will transmit detailed tribute specifications within the hour," the High Minister concluded. "I look forward to welcoming Earth into the Council's embrace." The hologram dissolved, leaving the humans in stunned silence. Lieutenant Park whispered, Did they just demand tribute and threaten to destroy us if we refuse? I believe they did, Elena replied, her mind already racing ahead to the chaos this would cause. Contact the Secretary General immediately. The Security Council needs to convene within the hour. The emergency session of the United Earth Government filled the massive circular chamber in Geneva with representatives from all 194 nations. Secretary General Okafor stood at the center podium, her usually calm face drawn with worry as the recording of the Council's demands played for the assembled leaders. "This is tantamount to a declaration of slavery," shouted the representative from Brazil. "We cannot possibly agree to these terms." "What choice do we have?" countered China's delegate. "You saw their technology. Their ships are centuries beyond our capabilities." Elena watched from her position near the podium, measuring the growing panic in the room. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. Their first interstellar colony was barely established. They had exactly 12 warships capable of FTL jumps, and based on the Valorian hologram's casual display of power, those ships would be little more than target practice. Admiral Joe of the United Earth Defense Force took the floor, his weathered face grim. "My analysis suggests we cannot win a direct military confrontation. The technology gap is too significant." "So we surrender?" demanded the Indian representative. "Become vassals to these Valorians?" "We negotiate," suggested the European Union's speaker. "Surely these terms are only an opening position." As the debate grew more heated, Elena noticed a man sitting quietly at the edge of the science advisory section. While others shouted and gestured, Dr. Sanjay Patel, the brilliant systems engineer who had helped develop Earth's translation matrix, was rapidly making notes on his tablet, his eyes wide with what looked like revelation rather than fear. "Secretary General," Okafor raised her hands for quiet. "We have 30 days to respond. I propose we establish working groups to evaluate our options." "Madam Secretary," Dr. Patel suddenly stood, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I request 72 hours before we make any decision." All eyes turned to the slender scientist. "What could possibly change in 3 days, Doctor?" Admiral Joe asked skeptically. Patel's eyes were bright with an intensity that caught Elena's attention. "I've been analyzing the Council's communication protocols during this transmission. There's something unusual in how their translation matrix processes certain human linguistic structures. I believe I've found a vulnerability, a fundamental flaw in how they interpret our language." "A flaw?" The Secretary General leaned forward. "How could that possibly help us against their weapons?" "Information warfare precedes physical conflict." "Madam Secretary," Patel replied, "give me 72 hours with a team of our best linguists and quantum engineers. I can't promise a solution, but I've seen enough to believe there might be one." The room fell silent as the implications sank. "In 72 hours, the Secretary General finally nodded. "But no more. We'll reconvene then." As the session adjourned, news of the Council's demands began spreading across the planet. Citizens gathered in streets and homes, watching screens in disbelief as humanity faced its greatest challenge. Some prepared for the worst. Riots broke out in several cities, while others began desperate prayers to gods old and new. In a secure facility beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Patel assembled his team, while Captain Reyes was assigned as military liaison. The world held its breath, waiting to see if humanity would submit to the Council's demands or somehow find a way to stand against the stars themselves. The underground facility beneath the Himalayas hummed with activity. 3 levels below the surface, protected by layers of rock and advanced security systems, Dr. Sanjay Patel's team worked without rest. The large central room was filled with holographic displays, quantum processors, and the world's best minds in linguistics, computer science, and alien communications. Captain Elena Reyes watched from a corner as Dr. Patel directed his team with quiet intensity. Dark circles had formed under his eyes. None of them had slept much in the 48 hours since the Council's demands. "Any progress?" she asked, offering him a cup of coffee. Sanjay accepted it gratefully. "More than I expected, actually. We've been analyzing the communication protocols the Valorians use. Their universal translation system has a fundamental problem. He led her to the main display where complex patterns of light shifted and changed. Look here. He pointed to a section where red warning indicators pulsed. Their language processing algorithms are built on rigid logical structures. They simply cannot properly understand certain human linguistic concepts. Such as? Elena asked. Paradoxes, for one. Quantum superposition descriptions, certain types of metaphors. Sanjay's eyes lit up despite his exhaustion. When we feed these elements into their translation matrix, it creates processing errors. Their system doesn't just misunderstand, it actively tries to resolve what it sees as broken logic. Dr. Lian Chen, the team's quantum linguistics specialist, joined them. It's like their minds, or at least their translation computers, can only think in binary. Yes or no, true or false. They can't handle concepts that could be both true and false simultaneously. And this helps us how? Elena asked, trying to see the practical application. Sanjay smiled. We're developing what we're calling a cognitive virus, a carefully structured communication that appears normal on the surface but contains layers of these paradoxical elements. When their systems try to process it, the conflicts cascade through their network, creating failures in connected systems. You're saying we could disable their ships with words? Elena was skeptical. Not just words, precisely engineered linguistic structures combined with quantum-encoded paradoxes, Leon clarified. Their technology is advanced, but it's built on rigid foundations. We've found a crack in that foundation. A young programmer raised his hand from across the room. Dr. Patel, the simulation is complete. They gathered around a screen showing a simplified model of Valorian communication systems. The team sent their test message through, and everyone watched as virtual systems began failing one after another, spreading outward like a virus. It works in theory, Sanjay said quietly, but we've never tested it against actual Valorian technology. And we only have one chance to get it right, Elena added. Their conversation was interrupted as Admiral Zhu entered the room, his face grim. We've detected a large council fleet assembling at the edge of our solar system. Approximately 50 vessels, including what appear to be warships. A heavy silence fell over the room. How long do we have? Sanjay asked. At their current position, about 20 hours before they reach Earth orbit, the Admiral replied. I've put our defense forces on high alert, but he didn't need to finish. Earth's 12 military vessels wouldn't stand a chance. Elena looked at Sanjay. We need to accelerate the timeline. Can your cognitive virus be ready by then? He exchanged glances with his team, who nodded with determined faces. We'll make it ready, but we need someone to deliver the message, someone who can speak with perfect clarity and timing. The delivery is as important as the content. All eyes turned to Elena. Why me? She asked, though she already knew the answer. You're already their point of contact, Sanjay explained. And frankly, you have the best diction and most unflappable demeanor I've ever seen. This message needs to be delivered flawlessly, without any hint of deception. She took a deep breath. I'll do it. Just tell me what to say and how to say it. 12 hours later, Elena stood before a mirror in her quarters, practicing the carefully crafted message. The words seemed ordinary enough, but the team had explained that certain phrases contained hidden linguistic traps. The pauses between sentences were precisely calculated. Even her breathing pattern had been choreographed to enhance the delivery. A knock at her door revealed Lieutenant Park. Captain, we've received a new transmission from the Council Fleet. They're demanding an answer within 6 hours. They've moved up the deadline. Of course they have, Elena muttered. They probably detected our military going on alert. She straightened her uniform. Tell Dr. Patel we need to be ready in 5 hours, and ask the Secretary General to prepare a backup surrender message. Just in case. Park nodded grimly and left. Elena turned back to the mirror, continuing her practice with renewed urgency. In the main communication chamber, technicians made final adjustments to the transmission equipment. Sanjay's team had modified it to encode quantum elements into Elena's message. invisible to human perception, but critical to exploiting the Valorian translation flaw. Secretary General Okafor approached Elena as she prepared. "Captain Reyes, I want you to know that whatever happens today, humanity is proud of you and Dr. Patel's team." Elena nodded. "Thank you, Madam Secretary. Let's hope we're still here tomorrow to appreciate that." Admiral Joe joined them, tablet in hand. "The Council fleet has entered Mars orbit. They'll reach Earth in approximately 90 minutes. Then we don't wait any longer," Elena decided. "Let's send our reply now before they get any closer." She took her position on the transmission platform as Sanjay made a final check of the equipment. "Remember," he whispered, "speak exactly as we practiced. Every pause, every inflection matters." Elena closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. When she opened them, determination had replaced all fear. "Initiating transmission to the Galactic Council fleet," she announced. The holographic communication field activated around her. For a moment, there was only static. Then the imposing figure of High Minister Zorthul appeared before her. "Captain Reyes," the Valorian's translated voice boomed, "I trust you bring news of Earth's compliance with Council demands." Elena stood tall, her voice clear and steady as she began to deliver humanity's carefully crafted response. A message that appeared cooperative on the surface, but contained within it the most dangerous weapon humans had ever created. A weapon made not of matter or energy, but of pure thought. "High Minister," she began with perfect calm, "humanity has considered your generous offer and prepared our response. Throughout the solar system, on Earth and its colonies, humans held their breath. Their fate now rested on words, paradoxes, and the hope that even the most advanced aliens might have overlooked a fundamental flaw in how they processed human thought. Captain Elena Reyes stood perfectly still in the transmission chamber, her eyes fixed on the towering holographic form of High Minister Zorthul. The Valorian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as they waited for Earth's surrender. Behind her, Dr. Patel gave a small nod. Everything was ready. "High Minister," Elena began in a clear, measured voice, "humanity has reviewed the Council's generous offer of protection and membership." She paused for exactly 2.7 seconds, a duration Sanjay's team had calculated would create the first subtle disruption in the Valorian translation matrix. "We understand that existence itself is both a privilege and a paradox," she continued. "Like the quantum particles that form the foundation of all matter, humanity stands before you in a state of both acceptance and refusal." On the holographic display, Zorthul's upper limbs twitched slightly. The translation system was already struggling with the carefully structured sentence. "Earth will prepare the requested resources," Elena said, her voice unwavering. "For in giving, we both lose and gain simultaneously. The volunteers you seek are ready to serve, yet remain forever part of our collective consciousness." She delivered each sentence with perfect timing, embedding the linguistic traps within seemingly cooperative statements. To human ears, her message sounded like diplomatic double talk. To the Valorian translation systems, it was becoming increasingly problematic. "Our tribute ships will approach bearing gifts that exist in potential until observed," Elena continued. "We offer both empty hands and full hearts, neither refusing nor accepting, but transcending the binary choice you have presented." Zorthul's hologram flickered. The High Minister's skin color darkened as it spoke. "Your response is unclear. Restate your acceptance of terms without philosophical embellishments." Sanjay flashed a thumbs up from the side of the room. The first signs of system disruption were appearing exactly as predicted. Elena smiled. "Of course, High Minister. Allow me to be perfectly clear with a simple Earth greeting that demonstrates our understanding." She then recited a series of sentences that Dr. Patel's team had engineered specifically to exploit the translation flaw. Each phrase contained nested paradoxes and quantum linguistic structures that appeared logical on the surface but created unsolvable problems for the Valorian processing systems. "This statement is false, yet I speak truth. The set of all sets cannot contain itself, yet must. I simultaneously accept and reject that which cannot be both accepted and rejected." The High Minister's hologram began to stutter. Your communication contains errors. Cease this transmission format. Is there a problem with our reply? Elena asked innocently. Perhaps this clarification will help. She launched into the final section of the prepared message, the most densely packed portion of the cognitive virus. As she spoke, the transmission carried hidden quantum-encoded data packets designed to propagate through the Council's communication network. On a secondary display, Sanjay and his team watched as their monitoring systems detected the first signs of the virus spreading through the Council fleet. Small ships on the fringes of the formation suddenly changed course, their navigation systems failing as the cognitive virus corrupted their command interfaces. Sorthul's hologram fragmented, the image breaking apart and reforming. What are you doing? This is impossible. You cannot. We are simply responding to your demand, High Minister, Elena replied calmly. Humanity's answer exists in quantum superposition, both compliance and defiance simultaneously. Observed. The hologram collapsed entirely, replaced by static. Throughout the communication chamber, technicians reported that the connection had been severed from the Council's side. For several tense seconds, no one moved or spoke. Then Admiral Joe's tablet beeped urgently. The Council fleet, he began, his voice hushed with disbelief. Multiple vessels are going dark, their engines are shutting down, command ships are drifting out of formation. Satellite imagery appeared on the main screen, showing the once orderly Council armada now scattered and disorganized. Nearly a third of the ships appeared completely unpowered, while others moved in erratic patterns as if their navigation systems were malfunctioning. It's working, Sanjay whispered, then louder. It's working. The cognitive virus is spreading through their fleet faster than we anticipated. Secretary General Okafor stepped forward. How far will this spread? Will it affect other Council worlds? Sanjay's expression grew serious. The virus will propagate through any connected system that uses their translation matrix. Once a ship received our message, its communication network would carry the virus to any other vessel it contacts. So, potentially, the entire Council communication infrastructure could be affected, Sanjay confirmed. We've created a cascading failure that could spread across their empire. Elena watched the screens as more Council ships lost power. What happens to the crews? Are we killing them? No, Leon assured her. We're targeting their computer systems, not life support. The crews should be safe, just stranded. Their ships will need to be completely reprogrammed. Admiral Joe's face split into a rare smile. Humanity's first interstellar victory, and we didn't fire a single conventional shot. A cheer went up around the room, technicians and scientists embracing each other in relief and triumph. Earth had found a way to fight back against seemingly impossible odds. But Dr. Patel wasn't celebrating. He stared at his data tablet with growing concern. What is it? Elena asked, noticing his expression. The propagation rate, he said quietly. It's exponentially faster than our models predicted. The virus isn't just affecting their military systems, it's spreading to all connected Council technology. He turned to her, his eyes wide. We may have just collapsed the entire galactic communication infrastructure. The celebration died down as his words sank in. So what happens now? Secretary General Okafor asked. Before anyone could answer, a technician called out from his station. We're receiving thousands of signals from all over the galaxy. Non-Council species are broadcasting on emergency channels. They want to know what happened to the Council networks. On the screens, news began filtering in from distant star systems. Council-controlled worlds reported massive technology failures. Trading hubs had lost contact with their central authorities. Species that had been under Council rule for millennia suddenly found themselves free from oversight as their Valorian governors lost control of their systems. We didn't just defend Earth, Elena realized. We may have accidentally triggered a revolution across the entire galaxy. Admiral Joe shook his head in amazement. They demanded tribute, and instead we gave them chaos. Secretary General Okafor's older face was solemn. The question now is whether they'll thank us for it, or unite against us. As if in answer, another transmission alert sounded, this one from deep space, coming from a direction where no council worlds existed. Unknown sender, the communications officer reported. The signal doesn't match any council format we've seen. Put it through, Okafor ordered. Everyone held their breath as a new holographic figure formed in the transmission chamber. Not Valorian, but something entirely different. A being of swirling energy contained in a vaguely humanoid form. People. Of Earth. The being spoke in perfect English, needing no translation. I am an emissary of the Arcturian Collective. We have observed your unique solution to the Council's demands. We would like to discuss your place in the new galactic order you have just created. News of what happened to the Council fleet spread faster than anyone on Earth could have imagined. While humanity had only been aware of the Galactic Council for a short time, hundreds of species across thousands of worlds had lived under Valorian rule for centuries. The sudden collapse of their communication network sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. In the United Earth Government's command center, reports flooded in from every direction. The large screens showed chaos unfolding across space as the cognitive virus continued to spread. We're receiving thousands of transmissions, Lieutenant Park reported, his fingers flying over his console. Many in languages we've never encountered before. Our translation systems can barely keep up. Dr. Patel and his team worked frantically to understand the full impact of what they had unleashed. The virus is propagating through every connected council system, he explained to Secretary General Okafor and the gathered leaders. Their entire communication infrastructure operates on the same translation principles. We didn't just disable their fleet, we've crashed their entire network. Is this permanent? Admiral Joe asked, his expression a mixture of hope and concern. Leon shook her head. Eventually they'll identify the problem and create new systems that aren't vulnerable to our cognitive attack. But it could take them weeks, maybe months to rebuild everything. On the main display, satellite imagery showed the disabled council ship still drifting in Earth's orbit. Some had managed to restore minimal power but remained effectively stranded. What about the Arcturians? Elena asked, glancing at the corner of the room where the energy being's hologram hovered, observing their discussions with apparent interest. They seem unaffected by our virus. The Arcturian emissary, who had introduced itself as Zenith, spoke in its melodious voice. Our translation systems are fundamentally different from the Council's. We do not attempt to flatten communication to logical constructs. Instead, it paused, searching for words. We embrace the inherent ambiguity of thought. Secretary General Okafor approached the hologram. You said you wanted to discuss Earth's place in the new galactic order. What did you mean by that? For 50,000 years, the Valorian Dominion has controlled the Galactic Council, Zenith explained. In the last few hours, your cognitive virus has done what hundreds of rebellions could not. It has broken their stranglehold on interstellar communication and governance. The being's form shimmered as it continued. The council chambers on Valorous Prime have erupted in chaos. The High Minister demands immediate retaliation against Earth, but their military command structure has collapsed. For the first time in millennia, the lesser council races are speaking openly against Valorian leadership. We never intended to cause a galactic revolution, Dr. Patel said, his voice tinged with guilt. We were just trying to protect our planet. Revolutions rarely announce themselves in advance, Dr. Patel, Zenith replied. But they often begin with a single act of defiance that reveals a fundamental weakness in the existing power structure. Admiral Joe stepped forward, his military mind focusing on immediate concerns. What about other threats? The High Minister mentioned species that would harvest us. Are they real? Very real, Zenith confirmed. Not all species in our galaxy are benevolent or even rational by your standards. The Valorians did provide actual protection, though at an exploitative cost. With their power diminished, various predatory groups may see opportunity. Elena exchanged worried glances with the Secretary General. They had solved one problem only to potentially create several more. Then why did you contact us? Elena asked the Arcturian. What do you want? Zenith's energy form brightened slightly. The Arcturian Collective withdrew from council politics thousands of years ago. when the Valorians began their campaign of expansion. We have watched from the edges of known space, developing our own civilization paths. We contact you now because you have demonstrated something remarkable. Our technology? Dr. Patel asked. No, Zenith replied. Your cognitive capabilities. The virus you created exploited a fundamental limitation in Valorian thought, their inability to process paradox and hold contradictory ideas simultaneously. This talent for quantum thinking is extremely rare among biological species. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So you're saying we think differently than most aliens? Elena asked. Precisely. Most advanced species evolved toward increasingly logical binary thinking patterns. Their technology reflects this trait. Humans appear to have developed along a different path, maintaining your capacity for intuitive leaps, metaphorical thinking, and comfort with uncertainty, even as you advance technologically. Secretary General Okafor's expression turned grave. And this makes us dangerous to them. It makes you valuable to some, threatening to others, Zenith corrected. The Valorians demanded your tribute not primarily for your resources, but to control a species with dangerous cognitive abilities before you could threaten their dominance. They have done this many times before. A communication officer interrupted, with urgent news. We're receiving reports from multiple sources. Several council member species have declared independence from Valorian authority. The Galactic Council is fracturing along species lines. On the screens, reports showed protests on council worlds, Valorian embassies under siege, and long subjugated species tearing down symbols of council authority. What had begun as Earth's desperate defense had ignited centuries of suppressed resentment across thousands of worlds. We never meant for this to happen, Elena whispered, watching the chaos unfold. No revolution is bloodless, Zenith observed. But yours has been remarkably so thus far. The Valorians ruled through information, control, and technological superiority. You targeted precisely those advantages. Dr. Patel's tablet chimed with an alert. His face paled as he read the incoming data. The virus has reached Valorian homeworld systems, he announced. Their planetary defense grids, orbital platforms, automated security, everything's failing, simultaneously. Will this harm civilian populations? The Secretary General asked sharply. The virus only affects their computer systems, not life support or essential services, Leon assured her. But their society is highly automated. There will be significant disruption. Admiral Joe studied the tactical displays with a veteran's eye. So what happens next? The Valorians still have vast resources. Once they recover, they'll want revenge. That, said Zenith, its energy form pulsing gently, is why I am here. The Arcturian Collective believes this moment represents a rare opportunity to establish a new relationship between galactic species. One based on cooperation rather than dominance. The energy being's form expanded slightly. We offer to mediate between humanity and the council races, to help establish a new order where Earth takes its place not as a tribute-paying subject, but as an equal partner. Elena looked at the Secretary General, both women understanding the historic importance of this moment. And why would you do this for us? Elena asked the Arcturian. Because the galaxy has endured 50,000 years of Valorian dominance, Zenith replied simply. And because any species capable of bringing them to their knees with paradoxes rather than weapons deserves the chance to offer a different path forward. Outside the command center, people around the world watched their screens in anxious anticipation. Most had no understanding of the complex galactic politics unfolding, but they understood one simple truth. Humanity had stood against an overwhelming force, and somehow prevailed. What none of them yet realized was that their victory had changed, not just Earth's fate, but the course of galactic history itself. 3 weeks passed since humanity's cognitive virus had brought the mighty Valorian fleet to a standstill. Earth had moved from celebration to cautious preparation as the galaxy continued to reshape itself around them. The disabled council ships remained in orbit, their crews now guests rather than invaders, as Earth scientists helped them restore basic systems while carefully avoiding reactivating the vulnerable translation matrices. In Geneva, the United Earth government had converted its largest conference hall into an unprecedented meeting space. At the center stood a specially designed platform, where the Arcturian emissary Zenith could manifest its energy form. Around it, holographic interfaces would allow representatives from dozens of species to participate remotely. But most surprising was the Arcturians' specific request. They wanted Dr. Sanjay Patel, not political leaders, to lead the human delegation. "I'm a scientist, not a diplomat," Sanjay protested as Elena helped him straighten his formal jacket. It was the morning of the first negotiation session, and his nervousness showed in every movement. "According to Zenith, that's exactly why you're perfect for this," Elena replied. "The Arcturians believe scientists make better negotiators than politicians. They care more about facts than power." Sanjay ran a hand through his hair. "I understand quantum linguistics and translation matrices. I don't understand galactic politics." "None of us do," Elena said with a reassuring smile. "We're all learning as we go. But you understand how different species think. That's what we need right now." Secretary General Okafor joined them, accompanied by Admiral Zhou and a small team of Earth's top diplomats and scientists. "It's time," she said simply. They entered the grand hall together. The curved walls displayed real-time images of space from Earth's orbital telescopes, a reminder of the vastness they were now part of. Zenith's energy form already hovered at the center, pulsing gently with blue-green light. "Dr. Patel, the Arcturian greeted him. "Are you prepared to help reshape the galaxy?" Sanjay took a deep breath. "I'm prepared to try." The air around them shimmered as holographic forms appeared, representatives from 17 different species, each with their own unique biology and appearance. Some resembled Earth creatures with variations, while others were utterly alien in form. All had been council members, many for thousands of years. "Beings of the former council," Zenith began, "we gathered to discuss a new framework for galactic cooperation. The Valorian structure has collapsed, creating both danger and opportunity." A reptilian being with iridescent scales spoke first. "The Valorians have ruled for 50 millennia. Their technology and military might enforced order. Without them, what prevents chaos? Or what prevents a worse tyranny from emerging?" added a floating creature that resembled a jellyfish. Many predatory species were kept in check by council forces. Sanjay listened carefully, noting how each species framed their concerns. The political landscape was complex, with ancient alliances and grievances he could barely comprehend. "May I speak?" he finally asked, stepping forward. All attention turned to him. Sanjay felt a moment of panic, then steadied himself. 3 weeks ago, Earth knew nothing of galactic politics. "We were simply trying to avoid becoming slaves," he began. "Our cognitive virus was a desperate defense, not a planned revolution. But its effects reveal something important about how the council operated." He moved to the center of the room where a holographic display activated, showing the structure of the virus. "Our weapon worked because Valorian systems couldn't process certain types of thinking, paradoxes, quantum superpositions, conceptual ambiguity. Their technology, impressive as it was, had a fundamental limitation." Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. "For 50,000 years, Sanjay continued, the galaxy has been governed according to one species' way of thinking. What if instead we created a structure that embraces diversity of thought, where different cognitive approaches are valued rather than suppressed?" A being composed of crystalline structures that chimed softly when it moved asked, "You propose governance based on cognitive diversity? This has never been attempted on a galactic scale." "Exactly," Sanjay replied. "The old council demanded uniformity. Species either adapted to Valorian standards or paid tribute for protection. What if instead we built a system where different thought patterns complement each other?" The representatives began discussing among themselves, their various languages translated by the new systems Earth and Arcturian scientists had developed together. Systems specifically designed to preserve rather than flatten cognitive differences. Zenith's energy form brightened approvingly.
This is why we chose you, Dr. Patel. You see possibility where others see only problems. A new hologram appeared, larger than the others, showing a Valorian dignitary. Not Zorthul, but another official with
different markings on its limbs. I am Torval, acting voice of the Valorian Conclave, it announced. Our High Minister and senior leadership remain indisposed due to your attack. The room tensed. This was the first official Valorian communication since the virus had spread. Have you come to threaten us? Admiral Joe asked bluntly. The Valorians' skin shifted colors slightly, a sign of emotion that their translation couldn't hide. I come to listen. Our dominance was based on technological superiority that no longer exists. We must adapt. It was as close to humility as a Valorian had ever shown to lesser species. Your cognitive virus has spread to 97% of our connected systems, Torval continued. Our civilization faces generations of rebuilding. We cannot force our will upon the galaxy as before. Sanjay stepped closer to the Valorian hologram. Then join us as equals instead. Your species has vast knowledge and experience in governance. That doesn't need to be lost just because your dominance has ended. Torval's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You would include us? After what we attempted to do to your world? The future requires all perspectives, Sanjay replied, even yours. For several hours the discussions continued. Species that had been enemies or masters and servants for millennia began the difficult process of reimagining their relationships. There were heated arguments, ancient grievances aired, and moments when it seemed the fragile dialogue might collapse. But slowly, a framework began to emerge. A galactic cooperative rather than a council, where leadership would rotate among species groups and decisions would require broader consensus. As the session ended, Zenith approached Sanjay privately. You have done well for a species so new to galactic affairs. We're making this up as we go, Sanjay admitted. There's no guarantee it will work. There never is, the Arcturian replied. But consider what you've accomplished already. The Valorians ruled through force and fear for 50,000 years. You defeated them without destroying them, and now offer them a place in what comes next. That demonstrates a wisdom few species achieve so early in their development. Sanjay looked around at the departing representatives, some of whom were speaking directly to each other for the first time without Valorian intermediaries. How long will these negotiations continue? He asked. Months, perhaps years, Zenith answered. Building is always slower than destroying, but the foundation you've laid today is significant. As they left the chamber, Elena joined them. So, Diplomat Patel, she teased gently, how does it feel to help reshape a galaxy? Sanjay smiled tiredly. Terrifying, overwhelming, and somehow... Right. The Valorians tried to make us small to fit us into their structure. Instead, we're helping build something new that has room for everyone. Outside the conference hall, they paused at a large window overlooking Lake Geneva. The peaceful blue water reflected the setting sun, while above them, just visible in the darkening sky, the stars began to appear, each one now connected to humanity in ways they were only beginning to understand. 3 weeks ago, we were just trying to avoid becoming slaves, Elena said quietly. Now we're helping design a new galactic order. I know, Sanjay replied. It's not what anyone expected when the council demanded tribute. But perhaps, added Zenith, its energy form glowing softly in the twilight, it's exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months after the council's fateful demand for tribute, the newly formed Galactic Cooperative held its first official assembly. The massive chamber, constructed in neutral space on a previously uninhabited moon, buzzed with activity as representatives from over 200 species gathered. The central hall was designed with areas that accommodated every form of biology: aquatic chambers for water-breathing delegates, high-gravity sections for species from dense worlds, and specialized atmospheric pods for those requiring unique gas mixtures. Captain Elena Reyes, now Ambassador Reyes, adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as she prepared to take her seat at the grand circular table. The journey from military officer to Earth's chief representative had been unexpected, but her calm handling of the initial crisis had made her the natural choice. "Nervous?" Dr. Patel asked, walking beside her. His role as scientific advisor to the Earth delegation had become permanent after his success during the initial negotiations. "A little," Elena admitted. "6 months ago, I was just a military liaison. Now I'm speaking for all humanity in an assembly of aliens." Sanjay smiled. "6 months ago, I was just trying to find a flaw in alien translation software. Life takes unexpected turns." They entered the grand chamber together. At the center, a holographic display showed a slowly rotating galaxy, the symbol of their new alliance. Around the table sat beings of every imaginable form, from crystalline entities that communicated through light patterns to gaseous intelligences, contained in specialized suits. The Arcturian representative Zenith's energy form pulsed brightly as it called the assembly to order. "Representatives of the Galactic Cooperative, we gather today to formally establish our new shared governance. For the first time in 50,000 years, the species of our galaxy meet as equals." Elena took her seat between a reptilian Draxian, ambassador, and a representative of the aquatic Melosians. The Valorian delegation sat across from her, reduced in status but still present. Torval, now the permanent Valorian representative, nodded slightly in her direction, a gesture of respect that would have been unimaginable half a year ago. "Before we begin our first session," Zenith continued, "we recognize Ambassador Reyes of Earth, whose world's response to domination created the opportunity for this historic gathering." All eyes and sensing organs turned toward Elena as she rose from her seat. She had practiced her speech for days, aware of its historic importance. "6 months ago, the Council demanded tribute from Earth," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Today, we all gather as architects of something new. Humanity is honored to join this cooperative not as conquerors or as subjects, but as one voice among many." She gestured to the diverse gathering. "What makes this assembly different from the old council is not just who sits at the table, but how we think together. The Valorians built an empire based on a single way of understanding the universe. We are building a cooperative that celebrates different ways of thinking. The translation systems developed jointly by Earth, Arcturian, and other species scientists conveyed her words not just in different languages but in different cognitive frameworks, preserving the nuances unique to each species' thought patterns. The cognitive virus that disabled the Council's systems revealed a truth. No single species perspective can encompass all of reality," Elena continued. "Together, with our different minds working in harmony rather than dominance, we can solve problems no single approach could address." As Elena spoke, Dr. Patel watched the reactions around the room. The Valorians shifted uncomfortably at the mention of the virus, but didn't object. Many of the formerly subjugated species showed signs of approval. The Arcturians pulsed with what he had come to recognize as their expression of satisfaction. The first session proceeded with the formal ratification of the cooperative's founding charter. Unlike the old council, leadership would rotate among 7 differently evolved species groups. Decision-making required broader consensus, and each member world retained greater autonomy while contributing to shared defense and research initiatives. Most revolutionary was the new approach to galactic communication. Dr. Patel had worked with a team of linguists and programmers from dozens of worlds to create a translation system that preserved cognitive differences rather than flattening them. The result was a richer form of interspecies communication that allowed ideas to flow between different thought structures without losing their essential character. During a break in the proceedings, Elena and Sanjay stepped out onto an observation deck overlooking the star field. Below them, the uninhabited moon was being transformed into a neutral meeting ground for all species, a symbol of their new shared purpose. "Do you think it will last?" Elena asked quietly. "This cooperation between such different beings?" "It won't be easy," Sanjay admitted. "We're still learning how to communicate across such vast biological and cognitive differences. But we're making progress I wouldn't have thought possible. The Valorians ruled for 50,000 years through force and fear, Elena noted. What will hold us together without that? Sanjay considered the question. Something stronger, I think. Valorian rule suppressed diversity. Our approach embraces it. There's strength in that, the same kind of strength that helped us defeat them. Their conversation was interrupted by Torval, the Valorian representative, who approached with a formal gait. Ambassador Reyes, Dr. Patel. The Valorian greeted them. I wish to speak with you before the session resumes. Of course, Elena replied, keeping her expression neutral. Despite months of cooperation, trust between humans and Valorians remained fragile. Our historians have been reviewing our archives, Torval said. In our 50,000 years of expansion, we encountered 17 species with cognitive patterns similar to humans. In each case, we either dominated them completely or, the array, Valorian's skin darkened slightly, eliminated them as potential threats. Elena tensed, but Torval continued. We feared what we could not understand. Your paradoxical thinking seemed dangerous because it could not be controlled. And now? Sanjay asked. Now we are learning from it. Torval's upper limbs made a gesture of concession. Your cognitive virus nearly destroyed our civilization, yet instead of conquest you offered partnership. This contradictory approach is proving more effective than our methods of direct control. The Valorian people are adapting well to the new arrangement? Elena asked. With difficulty, Torval admitted. We governed the galaxy for 50 millennia. Becoming merely one voice, among many, requires adjustment. But we are discovering benefits to this cooperative approach that we had not anticipated. As they returned to the chamber for the final session of the day, Elena found herself filled with a sense of cautious hope. The path ahead would not be easy, but they had laid the foundation for something remarkable. When the assembly concluded, she sent a message back to Earth, where billions waited to hear news of the historic gathering. They demanded tribute. We gave them transformation instead. Throughout the Grand Chamber, the representatives of 200 worlds prepared to return to their home systems, carrying with them news of the new Galactic Cooperative. In corridors and meeting rooms, species that had once been bitter enemies now engaged in cautious dialogue. Former slaves and masters sat at the same tables, their relationships fundamentally altered. As the Earth delegation prepared to board their ship for the journey home, Zenith approached Elena and Sanjay one final time. You have accomplished something remarkable in these 6 months, the Arcturian said. Not just for humanity, but for all of us. Elena shook her head slightly. We were just trying to survive. Sometimes, Zenith replied, its energy form pulsing. Gently, those fighting hardest for survival discover solutions that benefit everyone. Your species' unique way of thinking, holding contradictions, embracing paradox, has created a new path forward. As their ship departed from the moon, Elena and Sanjay watched the new cooperative headquarters recede into the distance. Behind them lay 6 months of intensive diplomacy, and ahead, the complex work of building this new galactic order. Not bad for a species that only achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, Sanjay remarked with a smile. Not bad at all, Elena agreed. Though I doubt this is what the High Minister expected when he demanded tribute from Earth. The stars stretched into streams of light as their ship entered FTL travel, carrying them home to a planet whose place in the universe had been forever transformed.